The fitness industry comes up with all different information all the time. New research, new ways to train. Your favorite influencer says for you to do an exercise this way. Someone else says that doesn't work. You have TikTok comment sections where seemingly everyone is an expert, and it all gets a little bit confusing. And the topic of intensity, or how hard you train, isn't exempt from this discussion. As each person is different, they offer up their perspective and what works for them. Some people say going to failure is essential, while others think it's unnecessary and just leads to fatigue. This all makes things a little bit confusing. So, should you be training hard? Or can you still build a solid amount of muscle and have a good physique without having to enter the realm of fatigue? Firstly, we need to talk about what intensity really is. What is training hard? I think the best explanation of training intensity is the term proximity to failure. Simply, how close do you get in a given exercise before your target muscle can no longer move the given weight? But why does that matter? Can't we just lift weights and build muscle without having the muscle fail? Well, if we want to answer that question, we need to take a look at what causes muscles to grow. Mechanical tension. Pretty much, what mechanical tension is the force that your muscle has to exert against resistance. So if you lift a 3 kilo dumbbell, it's going to produce enough force to resist the weight of that 3 kilo dumbbell. Similar things are going to happen when you lift, say, like a 20 kilo dumbbell. Training intensity, or how hard you take a set, is actually a pretty accurate way to know if you are triggering muscle growth. This is because the more intense your set becomes, the closer you're going to get to failure, and as a result of that, the more muscle fibers your body will recruit to lift the weight. This is then going to send a signal to your brain that it needs more in order to lift the weight, and as a result, your muscles grow. So, should we be training to failure? Maybe not to failure all the time, but it definitely has its place where it is useful. Within this, we need to consider fatigue, both local and systemic. Local fatigue is where our individual muscles, such as our biceps, get worn out from the work that we do, and systemic fatigue is where our central nervous system takes a hit from all the lifting we do. These two factors matter because they can help us assess the level of intensity we should be training at. Let's take a look at two scenarios: a heavy set of hack squats taken to failure and a set of bicep curls taken to failure. A set of hack squats will put overall greater demands on your body as the movement requires more muscles to be functioning simultaneously, such as your quads, glutes, adductors, core, and even your hamstrings to an extent. This requires a lot of energy from your body, and as a result of it, it's going to be taxing your nervous system. This can be why, after a heavy leg day, you can be left feeling relatively unwell, drained, and unmotivated, as well as being sore in your muscles. It's because your training intensity was so high that your body is now having to recover from it. Contrasting this with a set of intense bicep curls, you might feel a little bit worn out, especially if you take the set to eccentric failure, but this isn't going to be leaving you feeling obliterated like a compound movement. So where do we go from here? We need to apply the term RIR, or reps in reserve. What this basically is your own judgment on how many reps you had left in the tank before you failed. Say if I was doing a set where I would fail at 10 reps, but I only do 6 reps. That would leave me with an RIR of 4. I had 4 reps left before I failed. This is going to require a little bit of practice, as in some studies it's been shown that most people aren't actually all that aware of the failure threshold, so you may need to test your training to failure for yourself. The best rule of thumb for intensity, without overcommitting your body to a CNS tax, would be a 2 to 3 RIR for compound movements. So this would be multi-joint movements where multiple muscles are working in unison, such things like squats, hinges, pulls, and presses. I would say generally don't take these to all-out failure until your very last set. That way, you can end up getting a really good, solid training stimulus without having to add all the extra fatigue on top of it. And then for isolation exercises, so this is going to be where you're just training a singular muscle, a singular joint, something like a bicep curl, a lateral raise, or a tricep extension. You can take these pretty close to failure, and I'd say a 0 to 1 reps in reserve. You don't want to be leaving many reps on the tank here, as your systemic fatigue isn't really going to accumulate that much with these type of exercises. If you're wanting to maximize your rate of growth, it's important you train yourself to get as close to failure as possible. That way, you can ensure that you are stimulating muscle growth and not leaving gains on the table. Systemic fatigue is something that will creep up on you eventually. It will come in the form of low motivation, struggling to sleep, achy and stiff joints, and plateaued or declining training performance. At this point, what you should do is take a deload, which is a week where you perform at a sub-maximal level of lifting. So if normally, let's say you do 4 sets, you can then cut that down to 2 sets, as well as cutting back your training intensity so you go nowhere near failure, usually around 4 to 6 reps in reserve. I usually just take a week off training, and I find that once that week is over, I end up actually making some really good gains once I come back and my strength goes up. You may feel tempted to keep training, thinking that taking off a week is going to set you back, but sometimes you've got to go back to go forward, and in the long run, this will keep you consistent compared to overdoing it and burning out to the point where you have to take months off at a time. So the main takeaways from this video are: you need to train with a close proximity to failure in order to maximally stimulate muscle growth. Mechanical tension is the force your muscles produce against a resistance. Higher levels of mechanical tension will recruit more muscle fibers, and therefore they will be greater at stimulating muscle growth. For compound movements, stick to the 2 to 3 reps in reserve until your last set, and for isolations, stick between 0 to 2 reps in reserve. Also consider a deload every 8 to 12 weeks or when signs of systemic fatigue accumulate. I hope you found this video helpful. If you are having trouble making progress and wish to save yourself time and the guesswork, consider clicking the link in the description for my coaching. Great progress has already been made from the guys who have done so. Subscribe and share this video, and I will catch you in the next one.